Sketch and paint along with me today. This is an Easter themed tutorial. We're going to be using a pen and wash technique, which just involves waterproof pen or marker and watercolor paints. So if you want to join me, grab your supplies, let's get started. I just have some watercolor paints here. These are Michael Harding paints, but you can use any colors that you have. I'm trying out a new sketchbook today. This is the Arctic's watercolor sketchbook from Amazon. It's 100% cotton, hot press paper, which is a little bit smoother. It's actually a great surface if you like to do this pen and wash technique that I'm going to show you today. So we're just going to open this up and see how well this paper performs. I just thought the cover was so cute and it looks like Easter to me, so this needed to happen. All right, so we'll start on the first page here. It's a little bit stiff on the first page, so you might need a clip for that first one, just to keep it open. That clip is kind of overkill, but we'll go with it. All right, now I love these Faber-Castell Eco Pigment waterproof pens. They're archival ink. They're great for this technique. And I have a number of different sizes in here. I think I'll probably just use the 0.6. But I've got options if I need something a little smaller. So that one's a slightly thicker nib. But before we do the pen, I'm going to start with pencil just to play it safe. It's a good idea to start your sketch in pencil so that you can do some erasing if you need to. For the cute little chicken and Easter egg, I'm going to start by sketching the egg part. And I want to make room for like a little bit of the shell kind of coming off to the side. So we'll start with the smiley face shape for the bottom of the shell. And our little chick is going to be sitting inside of the shell. And we'll want to make kind of a shadow on the ground so that it looks a little bit more convincing. And I thought it would be fun to make the eggshell striped or spotted or just colorful like an Easter egg, right? You could even just make it pink or green or something like that. Just an unexpected pastel Easter color. But I think like stripes on it will look really cute. So maybe we'll do that. Now make the edge of the shell kind of jagged, like the little chick just hatched out of it. Of course, it doesn't have to look exactly like that, but you know, like it's just been hatched. And you want some of the back of the shell showing here as well. All right, and then for our little chicky chick, I'm not going to do a ton of dark edges for the soft, downy feathers around the side of our chick, but because this is more of a loose pen and wash style, we'll definitely need to make some marks. It's just that when you make your marks, make sure that they suggest fuzzy, downy feathers. And I'll show you how we do that in a second. I think I want my little chick kind of smiling. We'll make him sort of a cartoon character almost. So a little smile on that beak. And then for the eyes, make sure they're close enough to the beak, not too big, not too small. Something like that. And then because his head is turned, oops, that one's too bulbous. Because the head is turning slightly, we don't see as much of that eye as we do this one. I'm going to bring it even closer. And I'm going to have a highlight inside of the eye. Now this is where having our pens, it will come in handy because we can actually color in the eye with the black pen. So that should look pretty good. And if you want your chick to be looking more directly at you, you could certainly do that. In fact, I'm going to give our chick some like suggestions of little wings coming out. So he really looks like he's just been hunkering down in this egg for a while and he's poking out, ready to start his day. All right, so once you've got a rough pencil sketch, hang on to your eraser, or if you have a kneaded eraser, that's even better because then you're not going to leave any eraser dust on your sheet of paper. But let's go ahead and take our ink next, and we're going to just mark some strategic areas where we want nice outlines. Now, I don't recommend like outlining every single thing. Make it more dashed lines, more suggestive, and I think that looks really nice for this technique. It's okay if you don't have a specific light source necessarily for this, since a lot of it is just kind of made up anyway, and it's fanciful, fun, creative, so that's all right. But I'm going to go ahead and just outline our eggshell, and if you want to have like a little crack along the inside of it there, you can. Just remember, it's to make it look like an Easter egg, we're going to want to add some color, okay? So, or design or patterning of some sort. And then I've got just a little bit of eggshell here, kind of just like resting on the ground. I'll need to add a little bit of a shadow under that. A couple scattered pieces over here. And you can suggest the shadow using horizontal lines. And the nice thing about these pens is that no matter, depending on how much pressure you apply, you can get thinner lines versus thicker lines. So I recommend trying to just use a feather light touch at first as you're establishing these shadow lines. And then once you feel good about that, you can darken it up. Or you can use a technique called cross-hatching. So I've just made these kind of curved marks suggesting the underside of the shell being in shadow. And then to cross-hatch that, I just move my pen in the opposite direction, creating almost little box shapes. And that simultaneously darkens while also adding some texture and value. So that's a great way to use your pen and ink, is a cross-hatching technique. So I do kind of want to have more of a light source on this side, I've decided. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to make it more rounded looking by adding darker cross-hatching on the right side of the shell. The nice thing about using your pen for this is that it kind of frees you up when you apply paint to not have to do as much in terms of value adjustments. And I'm trying to make it look like the shell is rounded. So making my marks in sort of a rounded shape. And you can twist your book around if that helps you get a better angle on it. Like that. Hey, so there's our shell. Okay, I smudged his eye a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that. And now you can take your pen and darken up your little fuzzball. Oh, I love his little wings coming out. Of course, chickens don't really have much in terms of wings, but I think it just makes him look more excited to be here. Excited about Easter. Not really sure how eggs got associated with Easter. That's something I'm going to need to Google later. Eggs and chickens. Little peeps. Worst candy ever. You can comment if you disagree with me. Add your comment below. What's your favorite Easter candy? Mine is pretty much anything chocolate. I do love Cadbury eggs. That goes along well with our little chick here. Okay, so I'm outlining his little beak. Make sure he has a top beak and a bottom beak. And then his little eye. I don't know why he's a he. I guess you don't really know until they get bigger. And you can go ahead and fill in the whole eye except for that highlight. And that's just going to help him come alive already. And if you want it to look a little more realistic even, you can add a rim around the eye since most little chicks have one of those. And notice I'm being kind of delicate with my pen markings around the beak. Nothing too dark. And adding some texture, some floof, feather floof, and this little imaginary wing coming out. I don't know what shape little chick wings are. I'm just going to imagine that that's what it looks like. And I think he kind of looks like a chick. Yeah. So once we add the yellow coloring, of course, that's going to make him look even more like a chick. So this is the fun part now. We get to start painting. If you want to erase any excess pencil lines, now's your chance to do it. And again, a kneaded eraser is really perfect for that. So that'll just clean up your drawing and make it a perfect pen outline. Oh, I was going to add one more thing before I paint it, and that is some stripes on my Easter egg. Now I got to be careful to make these somewhat curved, mimicking the shape of the egg. And then when I go in and add color, I'll know exactly where I want to fill that in. It's up to you to decide on what color you want your egg to be, your colors. So I've got some brilliant Michael Harding paints. These will be perfect for the bright colors of the Easter egg. Now I'm going to use a round brush. I have a silver black velvet size 8 round brush. And I have a jar of water over here. Let's actually put it here so you can see that. Scoot all this over. Paper towel for blotting. That's really important for just controlling the level of water in your brush. And I've got a bunch of paints that I've already got on my palette, so I might as well just use this magenta color maybe for the egg. Before I do that though, I'm going to start with the yellow because I think it's a good idea to start with your lightest colors before jumping in and going darker. So let's take some of this bright yellow. We're going to paint it in our little chicky chick. All on the inside of the head. On the belly. I'm going to actually leave a little bit of white around the front edges of the feathers so that it does look like there's light shining in the front. Bring that right up to my eggshell. And the more intense you want your yellow to be, obviously the thicker your paint should be. Yellow just doesn't tend to be very dark. It's our lightest primary. So you know, you can go thick with this, especially since this is going to be a colorful little illustration, not super realistic. Already that's looking much more like a chick. Amazing, the power of color, right? While that's still wet, you can drop in some oranges or reds to intensify some of the colors, like under the beak and around the eyes. And so we're just encircling the head and then adding some orange in areas where maybe we can imagine it might be a little darker. That's super cute. I want to make the beak pink, so I'm going to take this quinacridone rose right here. Whatever pink you have works great though, and it's a pretty light value on my brush right now. And I'm just going to paint in that little beak. Oh yeah, it's looking very cute. Then we'll take some more yellow, maybe this warmer yellow, and just intensify, blob it in, maybe a little bit of orange, do some dabbing. You can use the tip of your brush to add some fuzzy texture. As it begins to dry, you can work with thicker paint and you'll notice that it doesn't fuzz out quite as much. It might start to stay put a little bit more. So this is your opportunity to add some more fuzzy texture wherever you'd like. Maybe a teeny bit of yellow there on the wing just to balance it out. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So now let's paint the shell. This will be fun. I would like to use purple. I think I've got some lovely purples on my palette here. So let's just start with purple. Purple and yellow look so good together after all. And we'll make it a nice light violet where the shell is breaking at the top as he's bursting out of his shell. All right, now if I want to make it look more rounded, I'm going to need to glaze a layer over the top on the side that's in the shadow, although the pen marks really kind of do that for us. So it's up to you if you want to darken or not. But with a second layer, I can go ahead and darken this area so that it looks like the shell is kind of turning backwards in space. And then I'm going to take the next purple. We're just going to alternate. So let's see. I'm already trying to think through what color do I want to put in between my purple stripes. Probably pink. Pink is such a great Easter color. Ooh, or we could do a turquoise blue. I think that actually would look really good. You know, the fun thing about doing imaginary images like this is that you can make stuff up. Just do whatever you want. It's your artwork. Okay, so let's make this shell here kind of a couple of colors. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to do like a turquoise blue. So we'll take something like this teal color, paint that on next. I'm trying to maintain a nice fine point with my brush, but if it's a little messy, that's okay. It's an illustration. And I might decide to darken my shadow side or not. I could probably use a neutral tint or a gray to just go over the top of that. Keep it simple. But I'm going to let it dry all the way first. While it's drying, we can add another pop of Easter color to the background. How about some of that pink, some of that magenta? We'll just like splash that right behind our little chick and use lots of water to make it really loose and expressive. It's so much fun adding these just washy effects to a watercolor. And I'm being careful not to touch my little chick because I don't want it to reactivate the purple there. But you can blob in, extra pigment to make it even more vibrant. That looks really fun. And just watch it spread wet on wet into the paper. There's nothing like watercolor as far as getting this particular effect. No other medium can do this. So it makes it so much fun. So we'll just kind of let that sit and see what happens. And in the meantime, let's add a light gray wash across the side here. And we'll just darken up the shell and add it to the little surface under our little chick. That's a little dark. I feel like it needs to be lighter. So I'm just going to kind of scrape my brush across that to lighten it up somewhat. We'll add a little bit of a shadow under the shell. Nice. Oh, what a cutie. A little more magenta over there. While your paper is still a little bit wet, that's the perfect opportunity to add blooms if that's something you like to do. It's basically just taking a droplet of water and touching it to an area that's starting to dry. And you'll see these little explosions happen, and it can look so lovely. It's another one of those things that watercolor is just really good at. Just going to add a teeny hint of yellow right back here. I feel like it needed something in that space. And then once this is all dry, if you want to go a step further and add like a spatter effect, you certainly can. Let's give it a minute and then we'll add some spatter. Look at how lovely those blooms are looking. All right, if you want to add some spatter, just make sure that your brush is wet enough. I'm going to continue with that pink again, and we're just going to tap, tap, tap. Get a little of that into our background and even across the front. And I'm actually going to wash it out where it's on the chick because I don't want it there. Of course, you could cover it to protect that if you want. But, oh, he's so cute. There we go. I thought this paper performed beautifully. I think for ink and wash techniques like this, it's really quite perfect. That's a lot of what I use hot press paper for, is more the illustrative style of painting. And I think that turned out so cute. If you painted along with me and decided to try this project, I'd love to see your work. Tag me on Instagram at @eOlsonArt and I will reshare it in my stories. I love seeing what you guys are creating. Happy Easter and happy painting.